You're back. That's awesome. All right. You've got that morning routine rolling now. So let's get you started on a really awesome evening routine. Here's what I want you to know about your evening routine. This is all about making tomorrow easier. I want you to remember this so that when you're super tired and you don't really feel like doing some of these steps, even though they're really easy, your brain is going to go there. It's going to say, well, we'll just worry about it tomorrow. No, you're going to tell your brain, hey, just a little effort, and tomorrow is going to be a breeze if I just take these few steps today. Okay? So let's start with the first part of the evening routine, and that's make a plan. The best way to combat overeating and thus lose weight is to make a plan 24 hours. The least amount is 12 hours in advance. Plan everything you're going to eat, okay? Write it down. I mean it, write it down. Don't just think about it in your head. Just be very specific about what you're going to eat. You don't necessarily need to do quantities. You can if you want. But just, I know I'm going to have this salad with vegetables and this dressing and these toppings, okay? That's what I mean by specific. But here's the key. Be reasonable. And by reasonable, I don't mean don't try to overhaul your whole diet into something you think you're supposed to be eating, okay? When we do that, we become way too overwhelmed and we never actually stick with it and follow through. I want your plan tomorrow to look very much like your plan or what you had to eat today, okay? And actually, my favorite place to start with my clients is to start by adding, not taking away things that you're going to eat, okay? I tell my clients to plan as many vegetables as they want during the day. And this is a really, really great way to start. A really good question to ask yourself when you're making your plan is like, the me who's lost all the weight, how would she eat? And write down exactly how you think she would eat during the day. It's not how you eat now, otherwise you would be at the weight you want to be at. But it's a good idea of kind of the changes that you're going to have to make. Now, don't just switch to that plan tomorrow. No, just take one small little change that you can make and put it in your plan for tomorrow, okay? I know one thing I bet she does. And I bet she eats more vegetables than you do today, okay? So start there. Plan enough food so your body has enough energy and fuel to fuel it. Assign times, rough times about when you're going to eat. And be sure to double plan sometimes. Plan for time crunches. Like if you have back-to-back meetings around lunch, well then you're going to have to figure out you're not going to be able to go out to eat, or you're going to have something pre-made. Does that make sense? Plan for events, possible schedule changes. You guys are moms. Not everything goes to plan. You know what I have a backup plan every week of a dinner meal either in the freezer or in the fridge that I can whip up in 30 minutes. Always, because you never know when things are going to totally blow up in your face and be off plan, okay? Here's why we plan. We never plan on overeating unless we don't have a plan or we don't think about it ahead of time. It's in those moments when we're rushed that we tend to shove the food in our face. When we don't know what we're going to eat, we don't make as good of decisions. We make better decisions when we create awareness around what we're going to eat. And we don't fall into that automatic mode, okay? This really allows us to listen to our bodies and to eat just enough food that fuels us, okay? Here's the scripture I really pull from is, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper and not harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. That's Jeremiah 29:11, my favorite verse. God makes good plans for us. We need to make good plans for ourselves. Now, our plans aren't perfect because we're not God, but they're a really great way to jump off and start learning how to make good plans. Okay? Next, we're going to talk about preparing for tomorrow. Once you plan, you need to prepare for it. Make it super easy for yourself to follow through on your plan. Be sure that what you put in your plan, you have that food in your fridge. You have it ready to go. If you have those back-to-back lunch meetings, that means your smoothie is made and ready to go. And all you have to do is grab and go, okay? Some other great ways to prepare: pull out your Bible. So in the morning, you have it open and ready for you. Set your alarm. Set your shoes out so you're ready to exercise. Put a glass of water in the fridge so you can drink it and it's nice and cold right away in the morning. Those are just a few things that you can prepare yourself to make it really easy for you to follow through on whatever plan you've made, okay? When you plan, you use a part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex. And this part of the brain has the ability to reason and make really good decisions for your future because it understands consequences. So using this part of the brain helps you figure out your obstacles ahead of time. And it makes it much easier then for you to follow through when you're planning for all of the obstacles that might come up in your way. Because if you get up in the morning and you're tired, and you're lying there in bed and you're like, oh, now I gotta grab my shoes, I gotta grab my workout clothes, I gotta figure out what workout I'm gonna do. It's much easier then for you to stay in bed than for you to get up and work out. Okay? If you plan for all those obstacles, you have a much easier time to actually do the activity. Okay. The sluggard does not plow in season, so at harvest time he looks but finds nothing. That's Proverbs 24. I'm not calling you guys sluggards, okay? Don't get me wrong. But this verse really tells us that we need to prepare to have success, to see the outcome we want to have, okay? All right, and here's the very last step in your morning routine, and it is one of the most important, but what I find so many people misuse against themselves, okay? We need to evaluate with grace. We're all human. We screw up. We don't get things perfectly. You're not going to eat on plan perfectly every day. You're not going to prepare everything you need to prepare, and obstacles are going to get in the way and get the better of you. Satan's tricky, and he's very good at putting those obstacles in your way, okay? But when these things happen, when we don't always follow our plan, when we do screw up, when we do sin, you have a choice. You can beat yourself up and you can say, this will never work. Planning doesn't work for me. I'm not good at it. It just takes too much time. You can use all the excuses in the book. Or you can learn from it and you can try again tomorrow. And when you try again and you learn from it, you get a little bit better and you get a little bit better. And I don't know about you, but I like to learn and I like to try again instead of just sitting in stuck muck and never changing. So evaluation is key. Evaluation really helps us determine what were those obstacles. How did Satan trip me up? It really brings a lot of awareness to places where we need to be more aware. So these are the questions that I often tell my clients to ask themselves, okay? How can I make it easier to stick to my plan tomorrow? What did I put on there that was so hard? How can I make it easier on myself, okay? And how can I make tomorrow 1% better than today? If you followed through on your plan just perfectly, that's great. But then how do you make it just a little bit better tomorrow? Make it a little bit easier for you to follow through, or maybe a little bit, maybe eating a little bit less or moving a little bit more. Okay? And here's the key to evaluation. Just get curious. Evaluation allows us to learn from our past successes and failures. But if you go with it from a place of curiosity, you bring grace to yourself. Okay? And then the judgment goes away. Judgment comes from comparison, which leads to negativity. And that's just from the enemy. Okay? So we don't want that. Instead, we want to evaluate from a place of curiosity. Ask yourself questions in your head. That's fine if you do this in your head, but you need to ask yourself questions like you would ask your daughter. Like, why do you think you did that? What can you learn from this? How will this benefit you in the future? Those are the kinds of questions. They're very positive. They're life-giving questions that lead to positive solutions and positive changes. Okay? There's 2 verses I want to give you with this one. Let us test and examine our ways and return to the Lord. Lamentations chapter 3, verse 40. How do we know where to go if we don't examine our ways? Okay? And we always want to be going in the way of the Lord. But how do we know if we're even going that way if we don't look back on it? Okay? From examination, then we can really find how God is working and leading us. Okay? Each one should test his own actions. And then he can take pride in himself without comparing himself to somebody else. For each one should carry his own load. Galatians 6, verses 4 through 5. Examine your actions and how you're doing. Don't compare yourself to others. That is not productive. God made you an individual. Okay? You need to examine yourself, not in comparison to anybody else. I would say if you need a comparison, compare yourself to yesterday. Okay? All right. Go get it, you guys. You will feel so good once you have this evening routine in place. It will make your next day so much easier and fruitful and energized. I can't wait for you guys to enjoy this blessing of making it easier to follow through on good decisions for your health in your life. We'll talk again soon. I'll be back in a couple of days to check on you. Be sure to watch for a wrap-up video with my last tips and tricks in your email in a couple of days. Blessings.